It's time for the Manufacturing Austin podcast, sponsored by Texas Mutual.
Welcome. My name is Ed Latson, and this is the Manufacturing Austin podcast. Today, our guest is Andy Salo, owner of East West Manufacturing, full-service contract manufacturer focused on high-end PCBs, custom cables, and electromechanical assemblies. Andy's held a variety of C-level positions at a wide variety of different kinds of companies, including software, which, Andy, maybe begs the question, what made you want to jump in and buy East West Manufacturing?
Well, probably first because I'm insane. No, I actually got asked that question from other contract manufacturers, other CMs when I did purchase the business, because they were like, "What were you thinking?" I'm like, "This is a hard business." But I've been on the customer side of a CM before, and thought I could add some value there and know what the customer needed, and leverage my go-to-market experience as well, and so that's turned out pretty well so far.
Yeah, so I'm curious, what makes you think it's a hard business?
Well, it's one of those weird things. It is and it isn't. If you just do what you say you're going to do, you do it on time and do it with quality, you're going to be ahead of like 95% of the other people out there. But the technology and the know-how that goes into doing it is certainly difficult. And that takes a lot of experience. And that's why, I'm fortunate that, the people here just have literally decades of experience in doing really difficult engineering builds and prototypes of boards.
You have some significant large OEMs that are working with you, and you have a niche for doing some pretty high-end custom boards. What's your take on where you're different from other contract manufacturers?
Well, I think one of the things that makes us unique is the fact that, like you mentioned, I bought this business. It was about 4 years ago, and I bought it from two gentlemen who ran it for the previous 13 years to that. And the company really grew up in the kind of prototype NPI, new product introduction type of space. And when you do that, you see, not just dozens, but hundreds and hundreds of different types of, board layouts, different components used, new technologies being used. And so that prototype and difficult type of thing to build becomes part of the DNA. And we've carried that DNA in the company forward. And so that helps us even today, like even as we're working on larger production projects with large OEM customers, like an Audi, for example, or a 3M or somebody else. The fact that we've seen a lot of things, we can bring that to the table when they're trying to do a difficult project, and we need to help them be successful with it.
Because I know that you've seen some significant growth, over the last 4 years, and I'm curious, what set you up for that?
Yes, we definitely have seen a lot of growth. It was really challenging right at the beginning. I would say a lot of that was because the company was already successful. We have a lot of great customer relationships that were already in place when I got here. And so to a certain extent, when you come in as the new guy, really your first order of business is just do no harm, right? Like, the car is already going down the freeway, and, you've got to change tires while you're going down the freeway and keep it going. And so really part of it is making sure employees feel safe and that everything is good and still going forward as they expect. And then the other piece of that is, of course, customers, and making sure that customers don't experience a negative change in any way, and that things are just moving forward as they would expect. And that's really the biggest challenge, is just, it's already a moving vehicle and you just need to kind of jump in and go.
Talk about, employee relationships and building that. How much is that do you still focus on? And what we're really talking about, I guess, is culture. So I'm curious, how much of that is a point of emphasis for you now?
Culture eats strategy for lunch, I believe is very true. So there's so many things that go into that. I mean, I could probably spend a whole day talking just about culture, but a lot of it is just, do people know their value? Do employees know how they're contributing and feel valuable? I think part of the way that you enable that to happen is I'm a big believer in servant leadership. So, I always say that you don't work for me, I work for you, and we all work for sales, right? So we're kind of all in this together. It's really my job is to just make your job easier. Even the people that were here when I got here had already been here 5, 10, sometimes 15 years. And we've just, extended that, right? So I think people stay where they're happy, right? And that's really a testament to, what the company had done before I got here and what we've continued to do. And then I don't think you really have so many of those issues. I mean, obviously you do have issues you need to address once in a while, that, any organization would. But part of that is, when you're so busy, like we are right now, when you're a contract manufacturer, and I sometimes say that if you're in contract manufacturing and you aren't really busy right now, then something's wrong, right? And a customer I would say the same thing to a customer, like, you should be really busy because there's a lot of work out there. And when employees are working hard on a lot of different projects, there's almost like no time for politics. There's no time to, argue about anything. You got to get your stuff done.
What is it that you like about the electronic space?
I have a computer science background, I have a technical background, and we all see electronics all the time in everything, right? Our phones, the computers that we're using right now. But being in contract manufacturing, you get to see so many different industries apply technology in new, innovative ways that you had never dreamed of, frankly. I'll give you an example. We have a customer that is in the concrete, cement type of space. They have a lot of chemical things that they do for that, but they also have electronics. We build some devices for them that go on fleets of commercial concrete trucks, right? So cement mixers. If you were just pouring a slab for your house, you'd have a concrete truck or two roll up. Well, if you're pouring a skyscraper or a new building, such as we're actually building in Round Rock right now, you have a fleet of trucks that roll up, and you need to measure consistency, what's called a slump factor of that concrete. And normally you would do that manually, and it'd be a laborious process. Well, we build some technology that goes on those trucks, measures that device, beams it up to the cloud into their network operations center. And they have visibility of hundreds, if not thousands of commercial vehicles across the United States at any one time. I had never known that would be a thing, before, we were building it for them. So it's just very innovative things that, you get to be a part of all the time.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, you hear so much about IoT digitization, but it sounds like you're kind of on the forefront of that, helping companies develop products.
There's quite a bit of that. I mean, there's so much we do in IoT, IoT, industrial IoT, leveraging GPS, Bluetooth, ultra wideband, all kinds of RF, just so many things that are going on in the world right now with technology.
Talk about your approach to customer relationships and your philosophy there.
You both have to come into it as a partnership and realize that both of you have to go above and beyond for the other person. We understand that we are essentially the manufacturing arm for that OEM and are doing our best to make sure that things are designed for manufacturing, that we are doing things on time, et cetera. And then when there's issues, if there's an issue in manufacturing or something's not working in test, for example, you need a collaborative environment where you can kind of work with that customer and make sure you solve the problem really quickly. And so that's how I usually describe it. We know the critical piece that we are of that, right? We're the last piece before it gets out the door, right? Like, usually the people have spent months, if not years, developing a new product. And then they say, okay, when we need it tomorrow. So, you're on the hook to kind of just get it out there really quickly.
What are some of your challenges now?
Challenges. Oh gosh. I think the biggest is just growing and making sure you have enough capacity, right? That's the primary reason why we're building our new facility that, as you know, in Round Rock, we're in a little bit less than 10,000 square feet right now. In our current facility, we're building a 43,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility in Round Rock, adding SMT capacity, surface mount technology, and just growing the business, right? Like we just literally need more space. We're busting at the seams. So I would say that's the biggest challenge right now as far as like internal and customer challenge. But there's quite a few, just environmental challenges as well, economic environment, supply chain, all kinds of things right now going on in the industry.
Yeah, let's talk about supply chain because what a year. I mean, we got a pandemic. We have these global disruption from politics. As we record this, there is a ship trapped in the Suez Canal, blocking products.
Yep.
What has that meant for you in particular?
I'll tell you, I was seeing those. I was just literally watching this morning on those memes on Twitter now of like all these guys coming up with unique ways to move that ship out of the way. It's kind of crazy. But it is emblematic of just the issues that are happening right now, because some of them are on that shipping side, just the shipping freight, like literally you can't get certain docks and in the United States are backed up for weeks. So you have the whole shipping issue, right? But then you have a whole lot of just component availability, ICs, the integrated circuits, the just things that like either don't exist, you can't find them anywhere on the planet, or the manufacturers are backed up. They're giving you 52-week lead times or 28-week lead times, right? It makes it very difficult to build anything if you don't have the raw materials to do so.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating to have customers have that pull, but not have the parts to be able to make the product.
It's actually fairly common, because there's always something, right? Like there's always something that's going obsolete, a certain component that's going obsolete. So they have to go to the next gen of whatever, or there's shortages. There's a couple of years ago, memory became non-existent. All the phone manufacturers gobbled up all the memory in the world. And, so there's always something you're wrestling. But right now, after COVID, we're still in the middle of COVID. And just with all the supply chain and the US and China arguing back and forth, and just there's so many factors that just make things difficult.
Well, you mentioned COVID, let's hear it. What's your prediction for, the rest of the year? Here we are, it's end of March, 2021. Where do you see us in the summer?
I'm pretty bullish on where things are right now. Several of my employees have been able to get vaccinated. I just got my first Pfizer shot earlier this week. As you know, with Austin, they're starting next week. They're kind of opening it up, pretty widely. So I'm pretty confident that in the next 6 to 8 weeks, most people are going to be able to get vaccinated that want to get vaccinated. And I'm really hoping for just a semi back to normal summer.
I know ARMA is ready to do tours and get back into those facilities.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say, Ed, like one of the things that I really, really enjoyed right out of the gate after I did buy this company was the fact that ARMA was there and I was able to join right away and do those types of things that you just mentioned, right? Like the facility tours and going and doing the different events. There's so much that you learn just from going and seeing somebody else, how somebody else does something, right? Like you can always learn something. I've been to places where, I just like the way they do certain dashboards with, like large screen TVs and a rotating display kind of thing. That you just kind of go, oh, that's a great way to do that. That's a great way to do that. And the fact that the ARMA community is so strong and tight knit makes that really easy to do. And, just to give you a little bit of kudos, like you do a fantastic job at, kind of shepherding all those folks and making that happen.
I appreciate that. I think it's an interesting time for us just because, we haven't been able to get together, but the irony is I think the community is probably stronger than it's ever been. What's your vision for East West for the next 5 years?
We've grown a ton. We've already more than doubled in employees and revenue. And I would expect that to easily, quadruple from where we were, in the next year or two. And we're just starting there. So we've got, we'll move into the new facility and expand quite a bit there. But I would see us longer term really kind of expanding regionally within the United States, potentially into Mexico, and not just do PCBA like we are doing now, where we center things around PCBA, but we also do cables, electromechanical, back end, all kinds of things, but maybe do things like plastics, metals, et cetera, or require somebody to do that. So that's where I would see us going, because you really want to be as much of a one-stop shop for customers as you can. So the more things you can take off their plate, the better. And that's where we're heading.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch you get there. And Andy, I really appreciate your time today. This is the Manufacturing Austin podcast.